football right now and the Orioles not playing baseball right now and us being stuck with the likes of the Patriots and the Steelers playing to go to the Super Bowl, where we'll be in 2 weeks at Houston. Luke and I will be down there. The Terps, the Caps, and even the Wizards have made January like a really fun month to sit around and watch sports a couple nights a week. Certainly on Thursday night, we had a Terps game going simultaneously with the Caps game, both of them out in the chilly Midwest on the eve of the inauguration. Ed Frankovic was along with me watching both and sort of channel surfing, but by the time I got to the Caps game, dude, the Caps, somebody needs to call the police. I thought they were going to kill the St. Louis Blues on Thursday night. This is as good as the Caps have ever looked right now, Ed. That's what I would say after 40 years of watching this.
I would agree with that on the offensive side of the house. I think ever since late December, they've changed their mentality on offense, and it's about getting to the hard areas of the rink. We talked about them playing perimeter game too often early in the season. They are now going to the prime scoring areas, and they are doing the things that are getting the pucks there too. And they only had 18 shots on net on Thursday night.
And 7 of them went in.
7 went in, and 6 of them were from prime scoring chances. I mean, there was one, the first goal, Jake Allen, and let's make no bones about it, the Blues have serious problems in goal right now. Their goalies aren't stopping anything. But 6 of those shots were right in front, and it was just everybody scored, all 4 lines. It was started again by the 3rd and the 4th line. We've been talking a lot about the bottom 6. Brian McClellan went out and rebuilt this bottom 6 in the offseason. It's been dynamite. I mean, it has just been fabulous. This 3rd line of Brett Connolly, Lars Eller, and Andre Burakovsky, plus 2 again, they're dominating when they're out there. So if they can get the top guys to play both ends of the rink, and you're always going to get that from TJ Oshie and Justin Williams, but, if they can get Kuznetsov going and Ovechkin, playing his defense, and Ovechkin was a big distraction on Thursday night, led to 3 goals. So the offense I've never seen the offense play better. I agree with that assessment. They're 10-0-1 coming out of the Christmas break. They're looking very, very good. They're number 1 in the East in the NHL and the Metro now.
Let's talk about Hopi a little bit because, he's been hooked a couple of times. That's not a good thing, right, that he has been shaky. But the really good news is on the back end of that, the recovery for him is he is a kid with amnesia. I'll give him that, right?
You have to be. It's like in goal. As a goalie, you just can't remember the last shot. You have to come in and you just stick to your fundamentals. And that's what Mitch Korn has done such a great job with Braden on, the goalie coach, is just his fundamentals. His fundamentals are so good. And there were some weird bounces in that Pittsburgh game on Monday that I think the Capitals more widely just moved past. They're done with that game. We all know it was horribly officiated. Both teams played horrible on defense. It's over. It's done. You won't see Pittsburgh again until the playoffs because they're done with them. But Holtby was a big factor in that first period because the Blues came out strong. The Blues outplayed the Capitals heavily in the first period on Thursday night. They had 20-9 edge in shot attempts. Now, a lot of them were coming from the perimeter because while the Caps are willing to give up shots, they don't want to let you get in front of the net. They don't want you into the grill, if you will. And Holtby was seeing the puck. So he made all 11 saves he had to make. There were a couple of them that were tough, but the Capitals had the better scoring chances. And Holtby he didn't give up anything that really mattered. The only goal he gave up was early in second period, and he didn't see it. Alsner and Alexander Steen were right in front of him screening, so he never saw the shot. The other 2 goals he gives up is after it's 7-1, and the Caps had pretty much stopped playing. The game was over at that point. It was glorified pickup down at the Gardens Ice House.
Well, and everybody got the hell out of there as well. The balance of offense, and we talked about this. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, even when the team was going well, every night it's, hey, Ed, let's talk about Ovechkin. Hey, Ed, how about that Ovi, that number 8, that grade 8, that Russian kid? Let's talk about records. Let's talk about individual. Let's all celebrate that he scored his 500 this or his 1,000 that. Boy, all that feels really hollow at this point, right? Like, even as we sit here in January, those who hate the Capitals, those who love the Capitals, but, rue the day that May comes when they're going to be eliminated by some team they shouldn't be eliminated by, as it's gone for the last, 43 years or whatever it's been. I think the balance we can talk about here where Johansson's in on this thing. Justin Williams is in on this thing. Jay Beagle's in on this thing. All the line. Kuznetsov and Burakovsky, as much as we talked about all off season, those guys have to get better. And as much as they got beaten on in October and November when they weren't better, especially Kuznetsov, who sleptwalked through November, right? I got to give Trotz all the credit in the world, man. I don't know that he can get all these guys going at the same time in April, in May, in June, but he's got them all going right now in January. I know that much. That's for sure.
Well, he likes to use the phrase pulling on the rope, and he's got everybody pulling on the rope right now. And he's doing a great job with managing the minutes, so everybody's fresher. And Kuznetsov was terrible there for a while early in the season. I'm going to cut him some slack because he did have to play the World Cup of Hockey, and he did play that at a high level. And Russia did pretty well in that tournament, way better than the U.S.
Right.
But let's talk about Justin Williams. I remember having a conversation with Justin in the locker room. It was probably November, early in the season. He was getting a ton of scoring chances. He wasn't scoring goals. He had 2 goals. He was stuck on 2 goals for a long time. And I said, hey, Justin, you got to feel good about your chance. You're getting chances. It's just not going in. And he goes, yeah, don't remind me. Well, the guy's got 16 goals now. He's been on fire. And I think he stuck to the process. And that's a
Well, you talk about acquisitions, too. He was a little bit of a troubled child when he came over, right? Not a child. I mean, he's the most veteran guy they got around there painting cups. But he was also sort of, on the island of misfit toys when they found him last year.
Well, he's just a guy, he ups his game in the big moments. So he's at 3 Stanley Cups, and Williams, he's so good with his stick on the ice. His nickname is Stick, obviously, but he's also a professional, right? So he's a guy that, they had Brooks Orpik in here to try and get him to help bring a different culture, if you will, to the locker room, because it was all about, let's go out, let's party, let's have fun, let's hang out in Georgetown, and we'll show up, we'll play the games, and see if we're better than the other team. Brooks Orpik brought a professionalism to the locker room, and Justin Williams cemented that a year later. And Williams is just a guy who knows the game. He's not the fastest guy. He's small. I mean, he is not a big guy at all, but he is tenacious. Much like T.J. Oshie, he is tenacious on the puck. And if there's a board battle, the number one guy you want on the Caps going in there is T.J. Oshie. Then after that, you probably want Justin Williams and Jay Beagle, and those guys are going to come out with the puck. So they've got guys on each of those lines. And then when you throw in the way Connolly's playing and Eller and Burakovsky, you've got every line that has a guy that just is going to dog you on the puck. And that's why they're scoring so much. They have the best balance they've ever had at these 4 lines. And you still got the grade 8 who can just light it up. And in St. Louis on Thursday night, they were so focused on Ovi. I mean, Ovi scored 3 goals there last April. You remember that game to get the hat trick?
I do.
On his last regular season game because they didn't play him the next night against the Ducks. And they were so focused on him. The goalie's sliding to him. The players on the power play are sliding to him. All these lanes are opening up, and these other guys are taking advantage of it finally.
You know what? Justin Williams is 35 years old. We're veteran guys. His quote after the game was, I'm 35 years old, and I still want to impress my dad. This is the dad's trip, the mentor's trip for the players. Tell everybody about that, because you might have some people listening in that aren't Caps fans or whatever. This is really one of the coolest things Trotz does, and I know we talked to him about it last year when we had him up at Buffalo Wild Wings in Bel Air. We're hoping to get Trotzy out again in March. We're working on a date right now to do something here in Baltimore with him. But, he talked about the importance of it, and now here we are again, where they're doing the dad's trip from St. Louis down to Dallas, and all they did was go out there and have a 5-0 and 6-0 lead before the game began.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one. He and David Poyle are guys who taught us, you and I, hockey growing up.
That's
right?
true.
Did we learn from those guys?
That's fact.
Don't
throw Ubriaco and Terry Murray in there too, because they taught me a lot about hockey too.
Yeah, the Murray brothers. I mean, Brian would sit there and talk to me and explain me things. I put the whole Button family in there. I learned so much from them.
It's all clutching and grabbing, Eddie. It's clutching and grabbing is what it is.
But this was a Nashville creation, this dad's trip, and it's a wonderful thing. And I remember when the Caps started doing, 2008 or so, and Mike Green had that goal-scoring streak when they had the dads on the trip. But Trotz takes it a step further. Not only do the players get to take their dads, but everybody does. I mean, Kenny Sabrin, he's the radio guy. His father-in-law is on the trip with him because his dad couldn't go. The coaching staff, they're all on this trip. It's there's dads everywhere.
I'm going to ask Joe B if I can be his daddy and go on a trip next year.
There you go.
Maybe Trotzy will take me as his mentor.
There you go. Yeah, it's just a blast. I mean, they're going to have a big.
I'm going to send him a text today and say, I want to be your dad next year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. These guys love it, and it's perfect timing. You know, they came off that loss to Pittsburgh, and they gave everything they had in that game. At least several guys did. And just to have this trip, you know, have the 2 days off on the trip, it was great because the winning streak ends, and normally we talk about a drop-off the teams have after they have a winning streak. Columbus went through it. I mean, they lost again on Thursday night. But the Capitals had this dad's trip, and as Justin Williams said, everybody wants to impress your dad. I mean, you know my dad as well as anybody. He sat next to you in the press box for how many years while I was doing stats for the team. I mean, you always want to impress your dad. You always want to be on. So this dad's trip, as far as I'm concerned, came at a perfect time. You know, they're going to St. Louis. They got to go toward the Budweiser Brewery yesterday, and then
apparently the dads had a little pregame tailgate from what Locker was saying.
Yeah, you know those guys can put it down, man. Most of them are Canadian guys.
Pops, right? Exactly.
So it's just a great motivator. It's a way to reset, refocus after, you know, you could easily be down after losing a game in overtime.
Well, this could have been a sleepy trip. If there's no dads on this trip, go out to St. Louis and down to Dallas for a couple of days. You know, this is different than going up to Madison Square. There's a different kind of energy, I think, when you go out to the Midwest and you play hockey.
It couldn't have been more perfect timing because they're going to play Dallas on Saturday. And they haven't won there. I think Trotz says everybody's telling me the Cavs haven't won in here forever, and he's right. They haven't won since October of 2008. Alexander Semin scored in overtime. I remember the game because I was in Vegas and I was tracking it. And Fedorov set the record for points that night for Russians. So they haven't won there in almost 10 years. So we'll see.
You start talking about Semin and you know, going back to that era. Wow. I mean, they wore blue jerseys back then, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, that was just the start of the Rock the Red, you know, when it was coming in, and it was everything was changing. And, you know, our good pal Joe DePriest was in on that whole Rock the Red thing. And that's kind of, you know, they had just made the playoffs that spring, and you and I were there, and we took the limo down and saw the OT loss. It was frustrating, but it was the start of Capitals hockey coming back. But they're going to go in there. Dallas is really struggling. They're about a 500 team. They had the best record in the West last season. So I haven't seen a lot of Dallas. I know they have a lot of speed with Cody Eakin, and I know Sagan's been banged up, and Jamie Benn is as good a goal scorer and offensive player as there is. And they have some guys on the back end that I think should be pretty good. So I'm not really sure if it's their goaltending. I have not, like I said, have not seen a lot of Dallas, but the Capitals just always seem to go in there and lay an egg. So last year they got down, I think it was 4-0 or 3-0. They rallied back and just fell short, lost by a goal. So we'll see how they do. Hopefully the dads can motivate them because it's no fun being around when your dads and stuff. I mean, it's still fun, but it's always better when you win. You always want to impress your father.
He is Ed Frankovic, Ed at WNST.net, as well as Ed Frankovic out on Twitter during games. And as we've pointed out, Dallas is next up. But then on Monday night, Caps return to the phone booth. I will be in the house on Monday night against the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'm also going to be in the house on Tuesday night when the Terps take on Rutgers as well. I'm going to get to a Wizards game before I head down to Houston as well. This week, Dallas Saturday, Carolina on Monday at home, and then back out onto the road to Ottawa on Tuesday, New Jersey on Thursday, and the Island the following Tuesday. So they have a nice weekend off as well next weekend. So the little downtime will treat them well after kind of a rugged week here with Carolina and Ottawa on back-to-back nights on Monday and Tuesday. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. I'm also out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day. As I pointed out, we're going to Houston, but we've been talking all about the Ravens situation this weekend, as well as the Steelers and the Patriots and all aspects of how the Terps are doing, and even sneaking a little Wizard segment in there now that they're on fire as well. Nasty at WNST.net is the best place to find me, but I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.